Greetings, Christian Tradition students. And this little video is for those who are have chosen or are considering the second option in the semester writing project for Christian Tradition, which is to read a book from a pre-created list. If you have some other book you want to suggest to me, you feel free. But I will also feel free to say no if I don't think it's germane to or fits into our course. The ones I've chosen, the list is in the syllabus, and let me just talk very quickly about a few of them. Maybe not all of them, but because I don't have the list in front of me. But I know I have two on there by Elizabeth Johnson. She's a contemporary Roman Catholic theologian who happens to be one of my very favorites. One of those books is one that I used to have all Christian Tradition students read each semester, all of them, and write a paper on it, along with church visits. So you see that I've gotten to be a kinder, gentler man in my old age, plus it's less grating for me. But that book is called Consider Jesus, Waves of Renewal in Christology. I love this book. I think it's perfect for college-age students right about where you are. And it fits perfectly into this course insofar as it is goes further into Christology, the doctrine of Jesus the Christ, particularly in recent developments. Because of the length of our semesters, they got shortened by a couple of weeks well before you started. And it's been difficult for me to get past John Wesley. That's basically where we get to in this course now, which we have to get to him. But that leaves us in the 18th century. So if you're interested in contemporary Christology, things like Christology from the perspective of Christian feminism, or liberation theology, or environmental issues, or Christianity's relationship to other religious traditions and how Christology fits into that, and just what have been more recent developments in among theologians. She doesn't just treat of Catholic thinkers, although that is her primary emphasis, but she also deals with some prominent Protestants of the past few decades. And it's a really lovely little book. So I mentioned that one first. The other one by Elizabeth Johnson I also love very much. It's called Women, Earth, and Creator Spirit. This one is, I think, particularly of interest for those who have interest or want to learn more about ecological issues, particularly as theology engages them. This is a very fine book too, very thoughtful, and perhaps just a smidge above in terms of a challenging read than Consider Jesus, which I think is really a very manageable read. But it's not overwhelming, and many students have read it and really benefited by it. I still get occasional emails. I just got one a couple of weeks ago from a student who read that 2 or 3 years ago, and it just hasn't let her go. And she wanted a further list of reading after having done her journey through Women, Earth, and Creator Spirit. So those are two by Elizabeth Johnson. If you want to learn more about John Wesley, and occasionally, there are students who do, and of course he's very important to the Church of the Nazarene and therefore also to Point Loma Nazarene University. His little book, A Plain Account of Christian Perfection, is on here. Now that book was published, in the late 18th century. So his English is a little different from ours, but it's a very readable book, and especially there's a recent edition with fabulous footnotes from contemporary scholars that I think is very helpful. So that's a nice option and a good book to read. I know that if you're interested further in sort of science and the Bible, especially Genesis interpretation, there's a book on that list by John Walton called The Lost World of Genesis 1. It's a very, what we call a sexy title, The Lost World of Genesis 1, and that's a good read. And certainly if that's where your interests lie, I recommend that to you. I really love The Myth of Certainty by Daniel Taylor. Daniel Taylor is a literature professor, Christian literature and writing professor. This is a great book on exploring just sort of the dynamics of faith and doubt, what is the role of questions and question asking in the Christian life. And I love this book. That's why it's on the list. It's another one that I used to have all students read. Probably not both of those the same semester, but it's a good book, The Myth of Certainty by Daniel Taylor. I don't remember what else is on the list offhand, but there's a nice range of possibilities if you go with this second option. Please keep in mind, as with all papers, that spelling, grammar, and punctuation figure significantly. I'd say you can just figure 30 to 35% of the grade of your paper is devoted to, you handing in a nice finished product that you would and should and could be proud of. And that is not a pain for me or anybody else to read because it's been proofread carefully and you've done due diligence. Don't forget that we have writing tips that I've given you that are helpful in that regard. I think that's pretty much it on these papers. Don't be afraid of the first person pronoun, I or me. Don't overuse it, but my goodness, the whole idea with this paper is that it's your thoughtful summary and response to the big ideas that you've encountered in the book. So I love when I read a paper that I feel like it's just helped me to get to know the student a little bit better because you really are engaging with the book. It's clear that you're exploring the ideas of the book, but also exploring them as yourself and giving me your sort of thoughtful, considered response to the book. Thanks. That should help somewhat with Group 2 papers. Or not Group 2, but the second option in the writing possibility. Thanks.